So 5 years after testing the original Bowers and Wilkins 606, I finally get my hands on its newest iteration. And as many of you probably know, pretty much every version of the 606 has received a fair amount of criticism, including from myself, for being too bright. Some claim, however, that the S3 finally breaks with this tradition, becoming noticeably smoother. Let's put that statement to the test. Also, based on my new experience with the older 685S1, which allowed me to realize the true value and potential of this company, what does it bring to the table? How it compares? That I think will be the most interesting part of this review. But briefly, let's talk about the design first, because at this price point, BMW has really nailed it. These look even better than the first generation 606. From the front, those shiny metal tweeter surrounds look fabulous, and on the back, the terminals got upgraded to the highest quality possible, placed in a plastic insert, and even such simple thing feels great to the touch and really like it belongs here. From the first minutes, you can easily spot massive step up from the previous iterations, not to mention whole 600 series range. With that, there is a room for family resemblance here. Just take a look at the assembly of the front panel, the mid-bass surrounds design, and even the characteristic cabinet depth. However, the newest model looks far more premium, far more refined, and in my opinion, significantly more attractive. It's Apple-like attention to detail nowadays. Though stacking them against 685S2 could be more challenging. This featured really cool design as I remember. Anyway, let's grab a cup of coffee, as usual, connect them to my beloved NAT C320BEE, and talk about the sound signature. So it feels analytical and, as expected, quite forward in highs. What I've immediately heard was emphasis in actually bass and treble, slight V-shaped sound characteristics. Maybe there is a slightly more amount of bass compared to the first iteration, but side-by-side comparison would be needed to determine that. Though here is the thing. The bass, despite what my measurements shows, doesn't feel that present, especially at close distance listening. Actually, it sounds a bit dead. Maybe it's because of the overall tonal balance, but its quality feels a bit strange, almost cheap sounding. I don't get that sense of its consistent presence or nuances and textures as I did in the 685 even. Not to mention my reference, Quadral Platinum Plus 2 or Chromium 35s, which to me are peak examples of the low-end quality, especially in the near field. And whereas I don't feel the bass that strongly, I definitely do the treble. It feels very boosted, out of balance, sounding almost distorted, unfortunately. Especially when you turn up the volumes, snares, clicks in the background, or vocal sibilants definitely get in the way of your music enjoyment. So I don't know, I can't confirm they tamed higher frequencies compared to the 606S1. Just take a look for yourself at the measurements I took in my listening room, directly comparing them with the 685 from, mind you, the same brand. This increase is just crazy. Among all, this is the most surprising thing, and I'm the last person to criticize a speaker for having a non-linear tuning. I'm all for different sound signatures and diversity between them, but here the curve is just warped, like the early version of Beats by Dr. Dre Studio headphones, except instead of improving generation after generation, BMW seem to be doing the opposite. Whereas the 685S1 excelled in the vocals and upper mid-range, here it feels rather compressed, and I blame emphasis in the mentioned frequency extremes. And let's be honest, when it comes to the dispersion, from such brightness or forwardness, I would expect far more compensation. Lastly, tested Lean Magic 109, or closer in price, the Triangle Bore Abier 03, JMR Lucia, or finally the Quadral Chromium 35, all deliver far better soundstage, with more engagement and much more air between instruments. Sure, one might argue the new 606 sounds more analytical, very dynamic, and less tunneled than the old 600 series. But ask yourself how good that deal is if you get sound that feels unnatural, too sharp, and noticeably compressed. Yes, the 685 had a treble lift too, but notice it was subtle and harmonious. It didn't pierce your ear, nowhere near the way the new generation does. Instead, it shines with its upper mid-range, vocals, width, and detail. The 606S3, by contrast, feels like an exaggeration. Too much emphasis on treble, too much pursuit of short-term wow factor. And taking into account BMW's numbers of iteration, noticeable price increase, and the competitors I've listened to over those 5 years, I have to deduct half a star. So Bowers Wilkins 606S3 actually gets 3.5 stars from me. Objectively, they are undeniably fantastic in terms of build quality and design, and at this price they completely obliterate most rivals, not to mention the old 685s. But sadly, that cannot be said about the sonic performance. They just feel immature, tuned primarily for short-term impact. Exactly the kind of speaker that impresses instantly in a shop environment with extra sparkle and quote-unquote detail, but in reality is fatiguing in long term and lack all-around capabilities, in my opinion. The 685, on the other hand, offered a far more mature, hard-to-beat, audiophile-oriented sound at its price point. Sorry, but as much as I would like to, I can't say the same about the new 606. Let me know what do you think about them in the comments, and I wonder what approach you think BMW will choose for its next 600 series. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.